I'm going to remarry a young and cute wife, Tom exclaimed, gazing lovingly at Emily's belly. I feel sorry for Nancy, but there's already a child in Emily's belly. I want her to divorce me, he said, seemingly intoxicated with his own words. My mother-in-law nodded in agreement. That's for the best. Nancy is older than Tom, always busy with work and hardly pays any attention to him. In contrast, Emily is young, obedient, and cute. We'll soon have a grandchild, too, my mother-in-law said, showing an unpleasant smile. Yes. Then turning to me, she spitefully said, the second hand should get divorced and disappear. My father-in-law also agreed, nodding along. I sighed at this ridiculous charade. Maybe it's time to speak up. What? I'm single, though. Tom and his mother looked stunned. I won't let them forget. I had received something from Tom before. It was, my name is Nancy West, 33 years old. I work for a multinational corporation. I live with my younger husband Tom and his parents. Some might find it surprising that we live together in these times. But there's a reason for it. To save up for a down payment on a condo, Tom suggested we live with his parents for a while. It's just for a short time, so it should be fine, I thought. That was a mistake. I'm not liked by my in-laws, especially my mother-in-law. The reason being, I'm 5 years older than Tom, plus I earn a higher salary than Tom, who works in public service. My mother-in-law probably doesn't think highly of that. It was evident from her everyday comments and behavior. Don't you have kids yet? You're already over 30, you should hurry up, she would say rudely, and every time I came home late from work, she'd make snide remarks. Back so late again. I don't care about your multinational company or whatever, but as a woman, you shouldn't work so hard. You should come home earlier, or Tom will get lonely, she'd say with an outdated mindset. My father-in-law seemed to share her views. Though he spoke less, he always nodded along with my mother-in-law's words. And Tom, the central figure in all this, acted as if it had nothing to do with him. Once we had a big fight. That night, a drunken Tom gave me something. If you're so unhappy, just use this. Conveniently, he seemed to have forgotten all about it the next day when he sobered up. But I still have it, kept safely for when I can no longer bear any more incidents like this. But while all this is going on, my stress is gradually building up. That's when it happened. I had to go on a month-long business trip to a branch office far away for work. It was a good opportunity. I happily set out, thinking of it as a chance to stretch my wings. But during my absence, something significant happened at home. I'm back, I said upon returning from the trip, immediately sensing something was off. There were cute shoes at the entrance. Wondering, I entered the living room where I saw an unfamiliar girl. Welcome back, Auntie, Tom said, with Emily clinging closely to his side. Her face still showed traces of youthful innocence. She seemed to be around college age. I was shocked by this sudden development. Who are you? I asked. Nice to meet you, I'm Emily. It's my first time meeting Nancy, right? Emily's going to be staying with us for a while, so let's all get along. What? I didn't hear anything about this, I exclaimed. What do you mean? Tom began to explain with a cheerful tone. The girl's name was Emily. She was 20 years old. 3 years ago, when Emily was in high school, Tom, a high school teacher, was her teacher. At that time, Emily's family was going through a rough patch due to her parents' discord. She often confided in Tom, who showed her kindness and understanding. As graduation approached, Emily, wishing to leave home, was introduced by Tom to a company with a dormitory. After high school, she took a job there. However, she faced harassment at work and was forced to resign. With no job, she had to leave the dormitory and was unable to return to her troubled home. She turned to Tom for help, asking to stay until she found another job. You can't just decide this while I'm away. You're married and a high school teacher. For goodness sake. What if rumors start flying about you letting a girl live here? I was appalled by his excuses. Don't your parents find this odd? I looked towards his parents, but his mother calmly replied, What's the problem? She's just staying for a little while, right? Having a young and cute girl around will brighten up the house. His father nodded in agreement. It seemed that Emily had completely won over my in-laws during my absence. This is unbelievable. How can you just decide this on your own? I muttered in frustration. At that, Emily started to cry softly. That's so mean, Auntie. I can't go back home. If you kick me out, I'll have nowhere to go. I'll have to sleep in the park or something. Tom comforted the crying Emily. Don't worry, Emily. You can stay here, he said, then glared at me. How can you be so cruel to suggest kicking her out? That's right. It's your fault for always being at work and not being home. You're like a mean wife picking on a young girl. My mother-in-law and the others took Emily's side. I ended up being blamed by everyone. In the end, I reluctantly agreed, okay, until Emily finds a job. Dealing with my in-laws was hard enough, and now this new problem had arisen. It was frustrating, and I held my head in my hands. But this incident was just the beginning of a series of gloomy days to come. Some time had passed since Emily started living with us. However, she showed no signs of job hunting. Instead, she made herself completely at home. Hey, I'm gonna take a shower first, she said lazily in her loungewear, fiddling with her phone. Annoyed, I admonished her. Shouldn't you show a bit of restraint? And could you stop calling me Auntie? No, scary. Tom, help me. Emily ran to Tom for protection. Nancy, don't sweat the small stuff. To a 20-year-old Emily, you're definitely an auntie. Tom defended her as if it were the most natural thing. It's always like this. Whenever I complain, I'm met with responses like, Emily is still young, or you need to be more understanding. Arguing only leads to fights, so lately I've been trying to ignore it altogether. But it doesn't stop my irritation. Emily acts as if Tom being married doesn't matter to her. Almost like she thinks he's her boyfriend. She calls him Tommy and is overly affectionate with him. Maybe that was how they interacted when she was a high school student. But things are different now. In the 3 years since, Emily has become an adult, and Tom is a married man. It's excessive and inappropriate. Any person with common sense wouldn't even think of staying in a married man's house. Complaining to Tom about Emily is pointless, and my in-laws are no help either. My mother-in-law seems to prefer Emily, who occasionally helps out around the house, over me, who is always busy with work. Emily only helps with chores when my mother-in-law is watching. So she's completely convinced that Emily is a good girl. Unlike our daughter-in-law, who's always busy with work and neglects household chores, Emily is obedient and cute. My mother-in-law would say. My father-in-law is also smitten with young and cute Emily. I've reached my limit of tolerance. Something needs to be done. About this situation, I noticed something about Emily's physique. Her belly seemed more pronounced than before. Could it be? The thought made me feel uneasy, but I dismissed it as unlikely. That can't be true. She's probably just gained weight from lounging around all day. Or so I thought. One day, Emily left the house early in the morning, which was unusual for her. Even though she usually stays at home all day and does nothing, she returned looking very happy, laughing and celebrating with Tom. When I asked what was going on, they quickly left the room, leaving me wondering what they were hiding. I went to move Emily's bag, which had been left out, and as I picked it up, its contents spilled out. What's this? It was a pregnancy journal. Flipping through the pages, I was shocked to see Emily's name listed as the mother, and Tom's name as the father. The situation was so absurd that I felt faint. I had always been bothered by Emily's behavior towards Tom, which seemed more like that of a boyfriend than a friend. But I never imagined they would actually do something like this. Considering my work schedule, I usually come home later than Tom, so I had no idea what they had been up to. Could the place Emily visited earlier have been a doctor's office? My uneasy feeling about her bulging belly wasn't unfounded. Feeling confused and overwhelmed, I decided to step outside to clear my head. As I left the house, I noticed a young man standing at the gate. He approached me and asked, "Excuse me, do you happen to know Emily? She's staying at your house, isn't she?" I replied, "Yes, she is." "Why?" He introduced himself as Simon, Emily's brother, and explained that he had been looking for her. He had seen her in town by chance and followed her here. I was completely lost by this sudden turn of events. Simon suggested we go somewhere else to talk, away from the prying eyes of the neighbors. His expression was serious, and I could tell this was no small matter. I led him to a nearby cafe, and after ordering 2 coffees, Simon began to tell an astonishing story. Several days later on my day off, I was packing my belongings. I had told my in-laws and Tom that I was doing a seasonal wardrobe change, and the preparations were well underway. That's when Tom suddenly spoke to me. "Nancy, can I talk to you for a moment? I have something to tell you." I paused and glanced at Tom, with Emily smiling beside him. "Actually, there's a baby here that belongs to us," Tom said, tenderly stroking Emily's belly. "I know this might upset you, Nancy, but living together made me realize I can't let Emily go. She's pregnant, and I want to marry her before the baby is born. I'm sorry, Nancy, but I want a divorce as soon as possible." I had suspected the pregnancy, but Tom's selfishness left me disgusted. I looked at them with contempt. "Please do as you wish." Tom hugged Emily and declared loudly, "I'm going to remarry a young and cute wife." My mother-in-law, who had been listening, nodded in agreement. "That's better. Nancy is older than Tom and always busy with work, paying no attention to him. In contrast, Emily is young, obedient, and cute. Plus, we're gonna have a grandchild soon," she said, showing an unpleasant smile. She then turned to me and said, "The old one should get divorced and disappear." My father-in-law echoed her sentiments. Maybe it's time for me to say something. "I don't plan on continuing this ridiculous farce forever." "What? I'm single though?" Tom and his mother looked stunned. "Don't you remember?" After our fight, a drunken Tom handed me the divorce papers, saying, "If you're so unhappy, just file these." They were already filled out, so I signed and submitted them. That's right, the document I had kept from Tom was the divorce papers. I never thought the day would come when they would be useful. "You did what on your own?" "Did what? If we're talking about doing things on their own, that's you. Bringing a young woman home while I'm away and getting her pregnant. Since you intended that, I filed for divorce." "Fair's fair," I said, packing my bags. "It's fine, right? You're going to marry Emily soon anyway." "Well, yes, but..." Tom seemed disappointed, probably expecting me to resist. I guess he mistakenly thinks that he will always love him. Did he think I would cry and cling to him, begging him not to leave? That's a joke. I've long since lost any feelings for a man like him. I stood up with my suitcase. Looking at Emily's belly, I said, "You sure moved fast. Is there a reason you're rushing the marriage? Like, running away from something?" Emily's face tensed. "What do you mean?" "Never mind. Just remember, I can still claim alimony even after the divorce." "Make sure you both pay up," I said with a smile, heading towards the hallway. Tom and Emily followed me. "What do you mean by alimony?" "Of course I will. Your affair happened while we were married." While we were still married, Emily protested and said that it was your fault for ignoring Tom and going on business trips. She also blamed us for his loss of interest. However, her reasoning was as selfish as Tom's, and it was useless to argue with her. I tried to reason with her, but she refused to listen and insisted on going through a lawyer. Even if she did, we wouldn't respond properly. I interrupted her and reminded her that she couldn't just run away from her problems. This caused her face to change color, and she asked how I knew about her situation. I slyly smiled and told her that someone wanted to see her today, and that her future would be in their hands. She asked who it was, and I opened the front door to reveal Simon, her brother. She was surprised and asked why he was here. Simon explained that he had been looking for her and shared some shocking truths about their family. It turns out that Emily had been causing trouble since her teenage years, involving boys, stealing friends' boyfriends, cheating, and even getting into trouble with the police for staying out late with men. She had been a constant source of problems for her family, and they were fed up with it. It seemed that she felt uncomfortable at home, but it was clear that it was her own doing. Despite all this, Emily blamed her parents and spread lies about their supposed discord, making home unbearable. Tom was just one of the many she had deceived. After getting a job, her family's relief was short-lived as her bad habits continued. She even involved herself with a married man at work and ended up getting sued by multiple wives for alimony. However, she ignored all these claims and lawsuits, pretending they didn't exist. Eventually, her wages were garnished and her misconduct became known to the higher-ups at her company. She was seen as a troublemaker and was fired. Without a job, she had to leave the company's dormitory and was in a bind. Instead of facing her problems, she decided to seek refuge somewhere else, and unfortunately chose Tom, her high school teacher, who used to lend a sympathetic ear. I explained the situation to Simon and told him about the troubles caused by Emily staying at our house. I also revealed that she was pregnant with my husband's child. Simon wasn't surprised and said that this seemed like something Emily would do. She was probably looking for a safe place to avoid alimony and saw me, the wife, as an obstacle. That's why she seduced Tom, likely rushing into marriage to create a fait accompli. Emily, unemployed and probably without savings, was effectively evading payments and had disappeared. Victims had reached out to Emily's family home when they couldn't find her. That's how Simon learned that Emily was fired and missing. Some victims even approached Simon's family, asking them to pay the alimony. Simon was fed up with Emily's troubles and wanted to take her back to make her face her actions. He had been searching for her with this purpose in mind. I also intended to claim alimony from Emily, but given her history, I doubted she would pay up without issue. Simon had a plan for handling Emily. We decided to join forces for our mutual benefit, so I left Emily's future in Simon's hands. I had other problems to deal with, Tom and my in-laws. Even if Emily left, not everything would be resolved. Tom cheated on me during my absence, and my in-laws, who had belittled me even before Emily's arrival, did nothing to support me. There was also the issue of living with my in-laws, initially intended only until we saved enough for a condo down payment. Fortunately, I didn't have children with Tom, so I decided now was the time to divorce. I remembered the divorce papers Tom handed me during a fight, and immediately filed them. I had already confirmed that I could claim alimony even after the divorce. Tom was visibly shocked when he heard the truth, mumbling in disbelief. My in-laws, hearing the commotion, came in. Simon explained the whole situation, and everything I've just said is true. Emily must be held accountable for her actions. Emily, is this true? My in-laws asked. You told us you left your job because of harassment. Was that a lie? Emily was taken aback, her escape routes exposed, and her misdeeds brought to light. Tell us the truth, Emily, my in-laws demanded. Upon hearing those words, she blurted out the truth. Okay, it's true. But that's all in the past. Those men took things too seriously, it was just fun. I don't need to pay alimony. It's annoying how they keep bothering me about it. We're getting married, right, Tommy? If you pay, this will all be over. Emily proposed desperately, but Tom's attitude changed. Emily, it's a bit much. It's your mess with other men. Why should I pay for that? He said, suddenly concerned about potentially bearing the cost. My mother-in-law, once fond of Emily, now looked disheartened. Look, Emily is young and lacks common sense. That's why I said Nancy, though older, is more reliable. She stated a complete turnaround from her previous stance. I wanted to call out her hypocrisy, but restrained myself. Maybe we should put the remarriage talk on hold? I'm getting confused. What about the baby? Emily shouts. I sighed. Emily, you brought this on yourself. Pay back the alimony. I'll be claiming mine too. You might have taken it lightly, but now you'll understand the gravity of destroying a family. Learn from this and reflect, I said firmly. Emily was speechless, sweating, and visibly shaken. Then, suddenly, she clutched her stomach and doubled over in pain. At first I thought Emily was just acting, but it became apparent she was genuinely in pain. Something might have happened to the baby. We hastily called an ambulance, and Emily was taken into the treatment room. Simon, who received an explanation from the doctor, relayed the information to us in the waiting room. The cause was unclear, but Emily had miscarried. Tom visibly relaxed upon hearing the news, as if relieved that he no longer had a reason to marry her. The in-laws reacted similarly. Their quick change of attitude was astonishing, if not appalling. Simon was called back by the doctor, leaving us in the waiting area. There was nothing more I could do there. As I was about to leave, Tom approached me. I'm sorry, Nancy. I got caught up with someone like her. I was probably just lonely when you went on your business trip. So do you expect me to forgive you? I shouted, startling Tom and his parents standing behind him. Forgive you for letting a former student live in your house, getting her pregnant while still married? I've never heard of such an irresponsible man. I never want to see your stupid face again. I then turned to my in-laws. And you too. After constantly belittling me, now you change your tune? You're the worst, lacking any sense of decency or shame. They were left speechless by my outburst. Fed up, I swiftly left the hospital to return to my parents' house, trying to calm my boiling anger. Later, I learned Emily was taken back to her family home by Simon after her discharge. Her parents were furious. The stress Simon and his parents had endured cleaning up Emily's messes over the years was immeasurable. As Simon had previously mentioned, Emily's future had already been decided. She would work at a small, isolated hotel on a remote island owned by a relative. This was to prevent her from disappearing again. Under the watchful eye of family members, her salary would be strictly managed to pay off her numerous alimony debts. The remote location, surrounded by sea, made it difficult for her to escape, and she would have almost no money for personal use or entertainment. Emily was to work there until all her debts were paid off. As for Tom, his situation turned dire. Rumors spread that a married high school teacher had brought a girl into his home. Parents looked at him disdainfully, and the school received numerous complaints. Amid relentless criticism and social media backlash, Tom's mental health deteriorated. He inevitably resigned, and the rumors reached the neighborhood. Tom became virtually housebound, shunned by the community, and ended up being unemployed, cared for by his parents. While pitiful, I couldn't muster any sympathy. They should try to become decent people, at least. As for me, I am currently overseas managing a new branch office project for my company. My days are busy and I barely remember being married. I will likely never meet those senseless people again. I feel utterly liberated now, and I just want to enjoy my freedom. And I cannot help but smile at the thought.